How to Train Your Dragon has been such a huge part of your life now for over a decade. It must be so sad that it's kind of coming to an end. I mean, how does it feel that this kind of incredible journey you've been on is kind of finishing?
I wouldn't say it's sad. There is a bittersweetness to it, but there's also great reward in having set our sights on a trilogy and achieving that. I think that we're bidding farewell to these characters in a way that that we set out to do, and it hasn't been compromised in that sense. So yes, there's a sad aspect of saying goodbye to this world and these characters, but at least we didn't let it peter out over a number of installments where people just lose interest.
And how helpful do you think it was that you really came up for the idea for this trilogy sort of really early on, in the sense that it wasn't one of those things where it just went really well and you thought, right, we need to make another one, let's come up with an idea. It felt like this was quite a planned, quite deliberate move to have 3 films in this series.
I think part of that is just having to do with my allergy to sequels in general. If they lack purpose and just feel like a random next adventure with 5 or 6 characters, it had to hold together as a whole. So when they talked about a trilogy, when they talked about a sequel, I pitched back a trilogy, and I said we can do 3 acts of one story, charting Hiccup's coming of age from Viking nuisance runt of the tribe to this wise and selfless leader by the end of it, and in the process reveal why dragons went away and explain the mystery of all of that.
Because it's quite rare, actually, isn't it, to have the same director on board for an entire trilogy? I mean, obviously we saw it with like Lord of the Rings and the original Star Wars films, but generally speaking, it's quite a rarity in cinema.
Yeah, it is when you think about it. Even the original Star Wars films, George Lucas remained a producer, but he didn't direct because it was Irwin Kershner that did the second film. But yeah, I think there's a rarity to it, and I'm well aware of that. It's a gift, actually, to be able to see it all the way through.
I mean, obviously what these films do, above anything else, is that highlight that kind of bond we share with pets and with animals. And obviously I think this made me think of my dog or my cats and stuff like that. I was wondering, you're a real animal lover, and do you have any pets?
I do. I have 3 French bulldogs. And the animator who was responsible for Toothless in the first film, Gabe Hordos, he had just adopted a cat as he set to work animating that character. So there's a lot of cat and dog behavior in Toothless, and that was very conscious. We wanted to kind of, I think, stir up familiarity with the pets we know and love.
And thanks to that, I cried my eyes out, so thank you for that. But obviously, this did feel like the most moving, most profound entry into this franchise. But was there a sort of challenge in bringing in those kind of quite poignant moments and still maintaining that very adventurous, kind of playful edge that has made these films so special?
It's a tricky balance, I think. But for me, I've always been somebody who is moved by the wonder and the emotion of a film more than, I think, the action set pieces, for example. So certainly we try to keep the balance of humor and kind of adventure and exploration, but most important to me is a sense of awe and that roller coaster ride of emotion. If we can bring you to tears, I feel great victory.
Yeah. And you must cry as well sometimes when you watch it. I imagine not every time, but it must get you as well sometimes.
Yeah, the author of the book series, Cressida Cowell, was saying, if you can't make yourself cry, then how do you expect to make others cry? And I do believe in that. Like, certainly when envisioning some of these moments, if I don't find that I'm emotionally engaged, then I don't think there's any worth in the idea. And
also, I mean, part of the narrative as well that is the idea of growth and time. And obviously, we're watching these characters really develop and mature across the sort of 3 movies. And I'm wondering, that must be sort of quite similar for the cast and crew in some regards. How would you say you've changed as a filmmaker across the last 10 years and across these 3 films?
I think that I've changed in the sense that I feel a lot more comfortable in the medium. At the outset, I had come from a hand-drawn animation background, so all of these tools were new to me, and I didn't know what we could and could not do. But the technology has grown up with us as well, so we can aim to be very ambitious in terms of scope and know that we have the capability to put those images on screen. And I think I've just learned to trust the people around me a lot more. There are so many talented folks, and you can share the responsibilities of directing with folks, and they become much more invested in their contribution to the movie as well.
And just quickly, what's next for you? Have you got anything lined up, or do you know what your next venture might be?
I have my pet projects, but I don't know what I'm going to be doing quite next. We're mostly just rolling the film out, and and hoping that it gets a great response. And then I'm going to take a little break, probably take a holiday, clear my mind, and see what possibilities exist out there for me.
Brilliant. Well, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you so much.
Cheers. Thank you. Cheers.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yeah.
Nice.
Hey!